Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast of the Storm, where social awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all-around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, well, not yet anyway. Yeah, Don, unfortunately, is not here at the moment because he is busy. He actually texted me on that. So yeah, it is me for the time being. Yeah. This is awkward because I am not one to usually take command of the situation. So, okay, so I'm going to start, and hopefully Dolan will pop in when he can. And here he is.
But yeah, we're sorry, late. Family dinner thing went long.
That's fine. Actually, you're on pretty much on time. You just missed the intro.
Oh, okay. Huzzah.
Yeah. So say hello to the nerdy cultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening and happy Easter to everyone. All praise to whatever gods or deities you happen to believe in. And thank goodness spring is finally on the way, even though I personally am more a creature of winter than spring.
Autumn, the summer or autumn for me.
Well, but I was speaking more kind of in the old school way of splitting the year, where it's just the two, winter and autumn and winter kind of go as one thing, and spring and summer are taken as one thing.
Learn something new every day when you're with Dalton Mortimer.
Well, I mean, it is the one and only thing I'm good at, so I would hope so.
Do not sell yourself short, or I will bitch slap you, and I say that as a friend. Yeah, so
anyway, things, and we're late, and I'm the proverbial white rabbit, so we need to get moving.
Yeah, I was about to start. Pretty much everything this week, minus the one article which Dolan did send, but yeah, pretty much everything Dolan sent this week, like he's usually been doing lately.
My stupidity detector goes ding when there's stuff, and my word is there ever stuff.
Right. So this is from thehill.com. This was published. Well, this is written by Justine Coleman. This was published March 29, 2021. Lil Nas X, Satan shoes stir new political controversy.
Yeah, this is mostly here for the usual trying to remain even-handed, sort of thing. Because we always hear the left, quote unquote, has gone mad, but lest we forget that about 30 years ago, it wasn't the left that was doing the crazy shit. It was the evangelical traditionalist right wing. So
yeah, both sides can be pretty stupid at times. Granted, the left is more vocal about it, but
Well, I think they're just more powerful at the moment. In the
Mm,
same way that 50 years ago, if you spoke ill of the Christian faith or the Christian church, you might have been within proper cause for a lynching, according to most people. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And Dalton and I had a brief discussion on Twitter about this. Um, we are covering this, but I have to make it clear that I do not care. Not
Yeah.
because it's not because of like the right wing political bullshit, just mainly because it's about shoes.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Yeah. And I also want to make clear that these are not shoes that I would in any way wear. Not because of any moralistic woo or my demon shit, but because they're sneakers and I don't like sneakers and I don't wear them. So,
Oh, I wear sneakers. I prefer the regular brands, mainly
uh-huh.
like Adidas or something. Also, I just wear the shoes I've been wearing for the last few years. Wear them until they're worn out or something.
Yeah. I don't really like shoe shopping. Although I did get a nice new pair of boots today actually, because my mom, in addition to all the candies and stuff, usually gets us a couple things as well. So it's
Right.
usually nice that way. In fact, this outfit is new, and I got it today.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Starting with the article, because this is like I think this might be the shortest one out of
Yeah.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Rapper Little Nas X um, has released an unofficial pair of custom Satan shoes that feature a drop of human blood. Wow, that is edgy if I've ever heard of it. Like even more so than the Kiss comic, where like they literally drew their own blood to be in the ink.
Like my sort of take on that is really only a drop. Like diabetics who have to like prick their finger for insulin reasons every day draw more than a drop of blood. Like I'm not really sure what the blood is supposed to do other than just be edgy trademark because like I mean it's not enough for a binding. Um, even if you were gonna go full left hand path with this shit, so like you just did it to say, well, there's a drop of blood in there. Well, yeah, but in all honesty, given how many major corporations use things like sweatshops and seamstresses and shit, I kind of imagine there's probably more than that in your just average shoe, just unintentionally in there.
Mm. All right. Lil Nas X, whose real name is Montero Lamar Hill. Why the fuck you wouldn't use that? Whatever. Collaborated with New York streetwear company Mischief, or MSCA.
It's supposed to be mischief. It's just they needed an acronym that would give them mischief.
Yeah. To create and sell 666 Satan shoes made from Nike Air Max 97s.
Again, so 90s edgy. Like again, guys, like this hasn't been edgy since probably about 1980. If we're talking like genuinely transgressive and edgy, like this is the kind of shit I expect from your average like hot topic shopping goth. And I'm not even sure goths are a thing anymore, technically.
There are. I've met a few in my life.
Well, I mean, of course, I actually knew somebody in college who was a straight up Luciferian, and oddly enough, he was one of the nicest people I've ever met, which goes to show you never really can judge a person even based on their beliefs sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, I knew a few goth kids who acted like Valley girls. That was a weird experience.
like you like say something insulting to them, and they're like, "Is this because I'm a goth?" No, it's because you're an annoying valley.
That's weird, right?
No, no, well, I mean it is, but it's funny weird. It's not really bizarre weird.
I think it's bizarre and kind of funny. But, that's just me. But Nike denied being involved in the shoe line's development,
Yeah,
saying,
no shit.
saying we do not have a relationship with Lil Nas or Mischief.
Yeah, again, no shit. The whole point of Mischief is basically meme marketing. Like they do things for jokes. That I mean, there's a reason why their company acronym is called Mischief because they do things for the lulz. So many of the lulz, and
Mm,
also they bought these secondhand and augmented them artistically. Is basically what happened. By rights, it should qualify as a different product. Then again, I don't think they covered the Nike branding, which is a bit of a sticky situation. Like,
mm,
if the Nike logo is on there, then you probably should fix that. In all honesty, the smart thing to do would have been to take the like inverted pentagram or whatever the fuck on the shoe and cover the Nike symbol with that somehow.
mm. Okay. Nike did not design or release these shoes, and we do not endorse them, Nike said in a statement obtained by The Hill. Shoes go on sale on Monday, so they've already been sold.
Oh yeah, and they sold out in like 5 minutes too, which was funny.
Hmm.
Which just goes to show you how many rich kids have $1,000+ to blow just to be edgy because they cost like $1,800 or some shit,
Yeah,
which which mildly offends me because I don't have anywhere like that much money. Not because they're Satan shoes, but because there are like even if you wanted to go straight up left hand path, there are much better uses of your money if you're gonna go that way. Especially because ritual tools are fucking annoyingly expensive if you're actually into ritual magic. Yeah. Moving forward.
Yeah. All right. The footwood includes a bronze pentagram, an inverted cross, and a drop of human blood from one of the members of the Mischief team. A spokesperson told CNN.
Again, that blood is not doing anything there other than just being, oh, look how edgy we are. It's not even enough blood to be edgy. Like if you just straight up inked it in human blood, that might be somewhat edgy, but just a drop mixed in with the ink, no. It's not enough for a binding. It's not that I'm expecting anyone at this company to know enough about magic to actually create a binding or anything, but like it's not even enough blood to do anything with is my point.
Mm. This might be the only time an article where I'm truly apathetic towards it.
And given the subject matter, I guess we could call you apatheistic about this.
I don't get it.
Because it was an inside joke for us because of how much we've been talking about like apatheism versus mythotheism lately because of the character we're making.
Oh yeah. Okay. Took me a second to get it. All right. Okay. Oh, hey, Bat City stuff. My pen has fell on the ground. Well, pick it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The dude says
Um,
weird stuff all the time. Every time he pops in. Okay, moving forward.
well, I mean, if it works for him, then I'm not judging. I mean, I say weird stuff, but usually the weird stuff is just because of the content of what I'm saying rather than the like structure. Anyway, moving on.
All right. Blood is included in the shoe's bubble sole, which has 60 cubic centimeters of red ink. We love to sacrifice for our art, the Mischief spokesperson told the network, confirming that Nike was not involved in this in any capacity. The pair of shoes are also expected to be sold at $1,018. That seems like a weird number to have. Oh no, wait,
Yeah,
hold on.
you would think because of all the ooh spooky woo demonic imagery, they'd go with 666.
Hold on. A reference to the Bible's Luke 10:18 reads, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." Okay,
Again, you're just I mean you successfully trolled a bunch of evangelical Christians, so props for that. But like apart from that, like again, this maybe would have been edgy in the 80s or like maybe the 90s at the latest, but it's been a long while since then.
um, the release of the shoes drew controversy as Christians celebrated Palm Sunday with evangelical pastor Mike Burns calling them evil and heresy. Ooh, all right.
Sweetheart, I've read the Ars Gotia. You don't even want to know what actual heresy looks like, darling.
All right. Okay. South Dakota Governor Kristi Norn, Republican, joined in on the disapproval in a tweet saying, "Our kids are being told that this kind of product is not only okay, it's exclusive."
Um,
But do
it's just
you
because.
know? Sorry, it's just I wanted to finish the quote.
Sorry, guys.
Um, but do you know what's more exclusive? Their God-given eternal soul. Oh my God.
Um, as far as I am aware, literally every living being in any plane has what could be broadly considered to be a soul. Um, unless you're talking about like their individual soul being like individually unique. I guess that works.
Right.
But this shoe does bumfuck nothing to jeopardize anyone's soul, darling. Like again, it, you could maybe make the argument if there was enough blood in these to constitute a binding and somebody like bound a literal demon to the fucking things. But number one, that would require a level of skill that I would wager my soul on the fact that nobody working for this company has enough savvy with magic to work such a thing. And number two, there's not even enough blood to constitute a binding on the things to begin with. And number three, most demons don't tend to give a fuck about profaning anyone. Some of them troll because some entities, no matter what plane you're on, have a sense of humor, and some entities are just kind of doing their own thing. But yeah, you have even in like even in the worst case scenario, this wouldn't do anything to jeopardize anybody's internal soul. Because here's the thing. Here's a little inside baseball tip for you. Demons don't actually care about your eternal soul because it doesn't actually benefit them to have any rights over you, unless the term is for some kind of length of servitude, i.e., I will serve you for this length of time, and then you will serve me in my realm for this length of time. That sort of kind of counts, but it's not the actual soul that is the bargaining chip. It's basically like it's like any other contract. It's I will work this field of expertise for this time frame, and when my services are rendered, I shall call upon you to engage in services for me. If that if that is the terms that both parties come to. But yeah, most packs don't have anything to do with the soul. You might get some kind of like sacrifice out of it, like if a particular spirit likes a particular incense to be burnt in their name, or um a particular food to be offered to them or something, then that might be the payment. But yeah, souls don't really factor in except for if the being in question has control over a afterlife plane or something. Like if you work extensively with Odin and he's your patron deity, you're probably going to go to Valhalla at the end of it all. But apart from that, no, nobody's interested in your soul. And demons, from what I've heard from other people who've worked with them, kind of get annoyed with people asking about how do I sell my soul or do I need to sell my soul? And I find it kind of annoying, or I find it kind of hilarious that demons get annoyed at that.
Right. So as a Christian myself, with all this,
Mhm.
I do not care at all. It's a gimmick. It's a shoe. Okay, I don't really think demons or Satan himself really give a shit.
Yeah, they're much. Even if you subscribe to the demons are like 100% evil theory, which, as far as I can tell from literally reading grimoires, has always been bunk as an idea. Um, Even if you subscribe to that theory, do you really think that this is how the devil chooses to spread his messages? You don't think there are 1,000 other ways that the devil might finagle to corrupt the youths if that's his thing? And even then, what we're essentially talking about is an archangel throwing a temper tantrum because daddy didn't love him enough. And yes, I said that. I'm not taking it back. The devil is a whiny bitch. If the devil is a being similar to the one described in the Bible and the legends surrounding the Bible.
Mm. Okay. The rapper released a YouTube video in response to the criticism that started with an apparent apology before switching 6 seconds into his music video Montero, Call Me By Your Name, in which Lil Nas is shown dancing on a devil character's lap.
Before he kills him and takes his throne.
What, you've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen the actual video. I watched it because I heard this was happening, and it was like, why not? Basically, he's doing this because as a kid he was gay, and he grew up in a really evangelical household, so he wants to get back at Christians who told him he was going to hell by just kind of trolling the shit out of them.
Okay, well, I can respect that.
Yeah, I can respect that too, and I've been in a similar place, even though when I the thing that almost got me in that kind of trouble was not coming out. Um it was teaching someone magic who asked me specifically to learn magic, and then his father finding out, and his father being a pastor, and that being predictably not going well.
Mm. All right. Still think it's really edgy though, like video and shoes and stuff.
Yeah, no, it's like classically you're not my real parents level of edgy
Okay.
is what's going on there.
He appeared to defend the shoes in a tweet, saying, "Y'all gotta admit, shoes hard. You cannot sit here and lie."
No, it's really not. Again, maybe if you had used an actual meaningful level of bloods, or called somebody who knew how spell work worked and got them to actually put some kind of binding on the fucking things, then maybe I would concede that maybe you have some kind of point. But one little finger nick and then a drop of blood in the ink is not edgy. If you had used all blood in the
Oh,
in the reservoir, maybe it would have worked, but whatever.
be honest, you just wanted to talk about the shoes because magical nerd bullshit, right?
No, it was the Christians getting triggered part two, but also, yeah, it does kind of bug me that, like, ooh, one drop of blood is so edgy, and it's like it's not even enough to constitute a proper binding. What the fuck are you talking about?
I really got nothing to add to that. So moving on. Mischief previously released a limited edition pair of shoes called Jesus Shoes, also developed by Nike from Nike Air Max 97s. That included a steel crucifix and holy water from the Jordan River, according to CNN.
Okay, see now that actually would have taken more effort. Like that somewhat impressed me because you had to go to Jordan or get a like reputable supplier for water from the River Jordan and actually import the fucking thing. That is more impressive than just one little drop of blood. That's kind of sad that the Holy Roller version is more edgy or more effort than the super edgy Satan ones.
You went super robot
Did
throughout
I?
all of that. Yeah.
Uh, oh, I was saying that it actually takes more effort um with the River Jordan water because you actually would have had to find a reputable supplier for the Jordan water or go to the River Jordan yourself and get it. So that's actually slightly more impressive than just one little nick of blood in each shoe. Unless maybe it was the same person who did the blood for all the shoes, that might be impressive, kind of.
Mm.
Anyway, moving forward.
Give me a moment while
Short version while he's getting the next one ready. Just because the right wing doesn't have the power now doesn't mean they're not full of the same kind of moralistic pricks as any given SJW you want to name. Did I go robotic again?
No, I'm just trying to. But can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm just trying to look for the place where we ended.
Oh, right, because we got only partway through the one slander article. If I remember correctly, it was like just as they were getting into the Accio accusations. Because they spent for freaking ever not even actually addressing the point of the article. Because he likes to hear himself talk even more than I do. And that's saying something. Badumching.
Okay, I think we found it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So this is in plain sight. How whites. Actually, let me go back up. So yeah, in plain sight, how white supremacy, misogyny, and hate targeted Star Wars sequel trilogy in one. We're continuing this from last week. So if you want to see the first half or first whatever, however long it takes us to finish this.
The first segment of us covering this article was contained in last week's show.
Yeah. So we're going to be continuing from the part we left off.
Basically, everything that title said so far is thoroughly wrong, and this person is not even good at arguing it.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna read the passage we read like we finished on last week, so we have kind of
Have some kind of context to jump off of.
We need to talk about the fact that almost 40% of negative YouTube videos mentioning The Last Jedi are from radical right wing or alt right accounts. These accounts have also dedicated their channels to hate campaigns against Captain Marvel star Brie Larson, former SNL cast member Leslie Jones, and feminist YouTuber Anita Sarkeesian.
Right wing. Okay. Here's the thing. Right wing, first of all, is not synonymous with, or anti-SJW is not synonymous with right wing. I am on the left. I voted. I wanted Bernie in 2016. I wanted Bernie last time, and my second choices were Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. So just so we're clear where I stand politically, I I
Right.
am on the left.
Right.
I am I am however a vehement anti-feminist, a vehement egalitarian, and a vehement men's rights advocate. And also a women's rights advocate, but nobody ever seems to have a problem with me being a women's rights advocate. And yes, you can be a women's rights advocate without being a feminist. They don't have a monopoly on that shit.
hmm I also like to point out I think I'm just apolitical. I don't really care for either side.
Yeah, he's the most milquetoast centrist you probably can imagine, and he is also quite vehemently anti-SJW. So yeah, anti-SJW is not synonymous with right wing, and furthermore, the alt right is a joke, and most of the people associated with it are a joke, in the sense that they are not in any way taken seriously by anyone in the anti-SJW sphere of like YouTube. Um, other than as a punchline. Sometimes people like to laugh at people like Richard Spencer or Jean-Francois Guéry, but that's about it. We laugh at them and we mock them because they're lolcows, but apart from that, nothing. The only reason anyone even knows what the alt-right is, honestly, is because they are the villains, people who are in favor of the ideology of social justice would like to fight, even if there's not enough of them to fill a fucking concert hall.
Mm-hmm. All right. We need to discuss how the leaders of hate mongering against the film are radical conservatives, including Ben Shapiro, founder of right-wing website The Daily Wire, and former editor-at-large of Breitbart News. Breitbart is notably responsible for pushing alt-right ideology mainstream.
Again, no. Alt-right is not synonymous with anti-SJW either. Alt-righters are usually like soft-core white nationalists and similar identitarians. And usually, funnily enough, they are also economically quite, for lack of a better word, socialist. It's why Richard Spencer cucked for Biden the last time around. I did. I said I wanted Bernie or Tulsi or Yang, and I will not accept anything less than Bernie, Tulsi, or Yang. I might have made a slight exception for Elizabeth Warren, but not after the whole not after she completely stabbed Bernie in the back. So yeah, that ship sailed quickly. So before you go throwing stones, you might want to actually look at where your enemy is on the political spectrum, because I'm not even sure that economically you can call someone like Richard Spencer right wing. Socially, you most definitely can. The guy is ludicrously conservative to a literally stupid degree. Like I'm pretty sure somebody beat him about the head with an iron fucking poker as a child because he's just that like incompetent and incapable of reading a room. And he's one of the most spoiled, privileged, upper middle class pricks you can never imagine. But that's neither here nor there. Point being, alt-right is not synonymous with anti-SJW. And some of the people in the anti-SJW sphere might be conservative, but it is in no way a conservative movement. It is generally a fuck off with your ideology movement.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward.
Sorry, give me a sec. I'm trying to crack my neck.
Oh, is your back still bothering you? Shit.
Yeah, bad. Don't worry. Probably next upcoming week I'll try and get a new one.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, don't sleep on a bad bed, folks. It fucks up your back immensely. I can barely bend over, like to pick up things, like
I was waiting to let you finish that sentence because phrasing.
it's only only if you think like that, man.
Dude, this is the internet. Everyone was about to make that joke. And I can almost guarantee you, everyone who ever watches this will be ready and willing to make that joke.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think I got my neck cracked.
Okay.
We need to discuss how the hashtag campaigns calling for fans to boycott Solo, a Star Wars story over hatred of The Last Jedi, are led by bloggers who spread white supremacist ideology over the cover of pop culture reporting.
Okay, first of all, no they don't, as we just went over. Second of all, they don't lead shit. They are popular among people because people relate to the things they say. That doesn't mean they have some kind of um higher pedestal that they look down on people from. Sometimes they do have like campaigns or something, but all the more often they usually latch on to existing campaigns and decide that they want to be part of those campaigns. And then the viewers make their own independent decision to follow it or not, depending on whether they feel it's warranted or not. They don't lead anything. It's not some sort of authoritarian structure where everyone agrees with what the top dogs say. As much as EVS and his ilk might want it to occasionally be like that. Cough cough. And no, that's not a moral disavowal of EVS. That's a he's an annoying shyster comment more than anything.
Mm. Oh, all right. Yeah. I got nothing like for that. You pretty much got all the points. So moving on then.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed that the racist hashtags boycott Star Wars. Episode 9 hashtag aimed at the Force Awakens actor John Boyega was started by members of an organized designated as a hate group by a leading United States civil rights organization, yet was written off as mere internet trolling. Probably was. And also, I don't think anyone's really had a problem with John Boyega.
No, he's gotten off probably the least bad of anybody. The only thing I've ever seen him get was one time on International Women's Day. He got a little pissy when people were like, why does no one pay attention to International Men's Day when it comes around? But when International Women's Day comes around, everyone and their mother says some flowery platitude, and most of that was just people making jokes about his character from the movie because they kept reposting traitor or TR8R in the comments, and that was just because Finn was a traitor in the movie and his number might as well have been TR8R because that's kind of it's basically a result of Finn being the new Boba Fett as far as everyone is concerned. The fact that he is a traitor is kind of a meme.
Yeah.
And even the people that criticized him were not in any way doing it because of race. They were doing it because his performance was lacking, in their opinion, or because the movies themselves were lacking, in their opinion. But yeah, it had bumfuck nothing to do with race.
You know that stormtrooper he fought in Force Awakens was like one of his squad mates,
Mm-hmm.
one of his friends.
Yeah.
That should have had more emotional impact.
Yeah. Well, but that's that's exactly why the traitor meme exists.
Okay. This kickstarted a slew of racist harassment against Lucasfilm employees, authors, and actors that made Star Wars fandom a hotbed for alt-right recruitment in the ongoing 21st century culture wars. Okay, fuck off.
The alt-right is a non-entity in said culture wars, okay? Because again, the like the only three I can only think of like three actual alt-writers that exist. One of them is a YouTuber called Baked Alaska. One of them is a YouTuber called John Francois Gary P that usually goes by JF, and one of them is Richard Spencer. And they are all cartoonishly over the top supervillains of the internet, and no bugger takes them seriously. No one, not Sargon, not Metaker, not the folks at Internet Blood Sports. Nobody. I mean, for fuck's sake, Richard Spencer got BTFO'd in a debate with Sargon and Six Hexenhammer. What the actual fuck are you thinking if you think anyone takes him seriously? But point be getting back to my point, the alt-right is a non-entity in the culture war, and the comments relating um to the various boycott campaigns or hate campaigns, if you want to call them that, had nothing to do with race. You could swap the complaints for literally any other demographic and it would still make perfect sense. You want to know why? Because it wasn't the actual race of the people involved that was the issue. It was the forcing of a moral ideology along with those things that was the issue. It was the fact that Kathleen Kennedy was a dyed-in-the-wool late second wave to early third wave feminist, and she considered women to be a demographic or a class, and she considered every other subcategory of quote unquote minority to be a class, and essentially she considers culture to be a class warfare issue, and she wants to co-opt Star Wars for moralistic reasons rather than artistic reasons, which is bullshit. And that is why people have a problem with quote unquote forced diversity. Not the diversity part, the forced part. This only comes with strings attached part. For example, I am gay, I am disabled, and I am a religious minority. Brainstormer is inner city and mixed race. Neither of us, however, would go to work for Kathleen Kennedy if you shoved a pitchfork up our ass and told us the only way to get rid of it was to do so. Because she is a moralizing cunt. And she only views minorities as pieces on a freaking chessboard in her grand co-opting of basically any pop culture she can get her hands on. And therefore fuck her. That's the thing. And yeah, and that's the other thing. People of these various minority groups that you claim these groups hate are part of these groups. So you either have to be saying they're not responsible for their own minds because they don't know any better in some way, i.e., internalized racism, sexism, yada, 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 or you have to concede the notion that these groups are not racist and race is not the issue. It's the ideology that uses race as a human shield that is the issue. And we can move on.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything to add.
No, I don't. We talk about how this so-called fan backlash, in air quotes, which it was.
You cannot invalidate people's fandom just because they happen, even if your contention that they were in some way bad people was true. That doesn't mean that it doesn't make their fandom their love of these things to be invalid. Their arguments or lack thereof based on it might make it invalid, but you have to actually address the arguments. You can't just invalidate a group of people by saying, this word doesn't apply to you because I say so because of morality. People who are bad can enjoy things too, and sometimes they can enjoy things in a more expert, more passionate, and more committed way than so-called moral people. So even if your contention was right and it's not, that doesn't mean you can invalidate their fandom. Yeah, moving on.
We need to talk about how this so-called fan backlash is part of a larger movement to change and control culture, put into motion by former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon in 2014. Okay, one thing, you motherfuckers are the ones trying to control culture, and almost successful.
Yeah, this is the single stupidest and most conspiratorial thing I've heard, and I spent a lot of time on the internet. Okay, thing one, who the fuck told you that Steve Bannon had anything to do with anything, and yet you complain about us being the conspiracy theorists? Thing two, we're not trying to control anything. Sometimes we try to preserve what we like about given fandoms, but that's usually in opposition to someone literally saying, I would like to subvert X property, or I would like to explore the racial and sexual subtext or the gendered subtext of X property. It my point being, usually it's not us saying I want to change and control this. It's us saying I would like this property that I'm invested in to remain recognizable and consistent within its own quality and lore. And it's the other side saying, I don't really care about this as an entity unto itself. I care about this as a means to an end in a culture war. Because something, something, something Frankfurt School ideology. And what the really like head fuck thing that is baffling me here is usually the people who are actually interested in the culture war come right out and say it. You don't even have to like catch them out in like a lie or mixed words. People who are actually interested in this kind of culture war nonsense will literally come out wearing the Force is female t-shirts and saying shit like, I never really liked Star Wars, so I thought I would turn it on its head. You know, like Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy did, or like the entire PR division of Lucasfilm did for 5 years. That whole thing. Yeah, that you did. It's not like they. At no point were they hiding it. In fact, this is a funny thing with ideological zealots. They don't often realize because they think they're in the moral right because they think what they're doing is the right thing to do. They'll come out and take credit for it anyway. It's kind of like the Unabomber. They eventually caught him, he didn't say I didn't do any of those bombings. He said, "Yeah, I did those, and here's how I did it, and here's why I did it," because he wanted the credit, basically, because he believed he was doing the right thing. And likewise, if you ask Kathleen Kennedy if she wants to make Star Wars more feminist than it was previously, she will come right out and tell you. If you ask, Rian Johnson if he deliberately puts the past must die, kill it if necessary themes in Last Jedi, he will come right out and tell you, yes, I didn't like Star Wars. I didn't like the over mythologization. I thought I thought I could undermine it. So who is perpetrating the culture war here, and who is just holding up their hand and going, "Oi, what the fuck is happening? And why are you taking away everything I love or am invested in? And could you please perhaps go and fuck off and make your own things and let the world and market decide whether those things are any good on their own terms?" Anyway,
Yeah. Okay, so we have a few things from Bad Say Stuff. I have a plan for my 10-year-old 10-year high school reunion to get back at my mortal enemy that used to be my best friend. I'm going to put a laxative in her cookie and in her water so she will crap herself. I'm majoring in broadcasting so I could offer to live stream the reunion, and everyone will see her crap herself all over the internet. The only way I'm going to have peace in my life is if I do my plan. I only have 7 more years to go. Do y'all like my plan?
You you might want to get some therapy, although I don't really know the series of events that led to this former friend of yours becoming your mortal enemy. So maybe what exactly did they do to warrant this torment?
Um, I mean, my general reaction is to say not do it, but I mean, you do you. I'm not.
No, it's your choice. It's kind of a blanket disavow for me until I have more information. Um,
Yeah.
it seems like you might be nursing an unhealthy grudge there. But again, I don't know what this person did. They might have, like, I don't know, shot your whole family or something. That would definitely be that would definitely warrant some retaliation, in my opinion, anyway.
All
But
right. Moving forward. Uh,
mhm.
sorry. Um, and it was a movement that successfully led to far-right governmental shifts in the United States, the UK, India, Italy, and Africa.
Again, I just want to put a yellow flag here and say, aren't you guys the ones always bitching at us for being conspiracy theorists, quote unquote? And yet you literally have this vast conspiracy about Steve Bannon and how he's the secret origin of all the anti-SJW agenda, quote unquote. By the way, the anti-SJW, like, zeitgeist dates back to like 2012, 2013. So where was Steve Bannon in the intervening years between then and 2014 then? Is the question, or did he, like, find existing anti-SJWs and prop them up somehow according to your harebrained theory? I'm just trying to get my conspiracy theory straight.
My former friend's girlfriend hated me and was jealous because my former friend would always spend all her free time with me. Basically, she told her that she can't be friends with me anymore.
Okay. Again, that's if that's the long and the short of it, it seems like you're nursing an unhealthy grudge,
Yeah.
and you should drop it and find some other means to perpetuate your existence, because there are much better reasons to remain alive. And believe me, I know it's better than mine, but there are better ones. Is all I'm saying.
You froze for a second there.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just saying. I it seems that city stuff, like, you're nursing an unhealthy grudge, and you should get rid of it and find another
Um,
raison d'être.
that was the first thing. Like, still writing. That was the first thing she did. The second thing was crossing the line by taking me to an adult store, making me pay for a big blue wee wee.
Okay, you say make you. How do you define make you? Because that seems like you could have done a lot of things to prevent the situation. I mean, I get everyone does dumb, stupid things when they're a teenager, because teenagers are notoriously dumb and stupid. But um, again, it seems like if that's all, you might be nursing a unreasonable, unhealthy grudge there.
Shall we move on?
Yep.
Leveraging over 1 million tweets and greater than 1,000 YouTube videos. This article will track the successful rise of radical right-wing hate, white supremacy, and misogyny in fan spaces, starting with Gamergate, and leading up to the Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. The descriptors you have used are either ludicrously redefined and goalpost shifting renditions of those words, or they do not apply. Because as I just stated, the actual white supremacist portion of independent media, if you like, is a joke. So much a joke that Richard Spencer literally had a supervillain monologue released by a gay Jew, i.e., Milo Yiannopoulos, shortly after Charlottesville, and he's basically been a living joke ever since. He's such a cartoonishly incompetent supervillain that Dr. Draken, Dr. Doofenshmirtz, and Dr. Evil would probably disavow him for being incompetent and useless. And as I stated last week, misogyny is for all intents and purposes a mental disorder, because human beings are wired to form strong emotional bonds first with their mother and second with their partners, families, and significant others. So for a human being to meaningfully be misogynist, they literally have to either physiologically or neurologically be brain damaged. Unless you're defining misogyny as something other than the hatred of women. If you're defining misogyny as the disagreement with some women, then sure, I guess. But if you change the definition, you change the impact of the word. So if you change the definition of the term misogyny, you're not going to have the same negative reaction to it as if you keep the definition what it's supposed to be. And again, feminism is an ideology which does not speak for all women or even a significant majority of women, by the way. According to certain ascertainable statistics, only about 8% of people in the United States consider themselves to be feminist, and only about 20% of people in the UK consider themselves to be feminist. So even if we were to accept the notion that disagreeing with some person or ideology meant you were misogynist, which I don't, then feminism doesn't have a large enough majority of women to be the ideology that speaks for all women. And also, I just want to point this out, some of the people who identify as feminists surely are men or people of other genders. So the actual percentage of feminist women is even smaller than the 8 and 20% respectively that those studies imply. So yeah, wrong thoroughly. Again.
Right. Hold on. Okay, so a few things for Betsy stuff. Oh. Okay, hold on. Let me pause this real quick because okay, okay, we were in the middle of the hood, boarded up windows on the building. She said you either pay for this or I will leave you here. So that's why I'm going to put the laxative in her cookie and her water and offer to broadcast the reunion. Me and her were friends for years, and then her evil girlfriend showed up and poisoned her against me. She was bad influence. Okay. I'm going to be honest, Bad City. I don't think me or Dawn are really qualified to offer real, meaningful discussion about this.
But for the record, I think we both agree that this is probably a bad idea, and the fact that you've nursed this grudge for apparently a decade or so is not healthy, and you need to find other reasons to live. And again, I get the notion of needing a reason to get up in the morning, because I have similar issues in that regard, but there are so many better reasons to keep going than revenge, especially cartoonish, stupid revenge like that. Like if it's something if it's something that wouldn't even be out of place in an Adam Sandler movie, you're not going far enough as far as revenge goes. If you're actually thinking of revenge. That being said, don't bother with revenge. It's stupid.
Yeah.
If anything, just go up to her and tell her off for all the bullshit she did in front of people. I think that's enough punishment.
That was 3 years ago, so like it said 7. Like Betsy stuff said they had 7 years to go in terms of the plan. So yeah, I really I got nothing really to say to that stuff.
Hmm.
So moving on. This article is an analysis of the closely connected networks that enable hate to spread from influential white supremacist groups to mainstream YouTubers. It is a
There are effectively no influential white supremacist groups, my dude. Like, again, the alt-right is a joke. Stormfront is all but irrelevant. Um, the largest like white supremacist thing that I can think of off the top of my head is like the Asatru Folk Assembly, which are a bunch of Norse pagans that believe for some reason that you have to be of Norse descent to work with the Norse gods, which is fucking stupid. Um, but apart from something like that, yeah, no, white supremacy is a joke, and most. This is the thing. White supremacy as an idea, frankly, is inherently stupid. So you have to kind of be a little bit dense to even believe it. Same thing. Same thing with misogyny. If you, as a human being, didn't get the gynocentrism hardware or software that every other human being gets in the interim between the time you were a child suckling at your mother's breast and the time you went through puberty, then you are a severe outlier as far as human psychology goes. Because as I covered last week, um, studies have actually shown something rather funny in regards to this whole misogyny thing. Um, Women have an in-group bias, which means women would rather deal with other women on average. But funnily enough, men have an out-group bias, which means men would rather deal with women as well. You would think men would have an in-group bias because you would think there would be some sort of gendered affiliation there. But no, on average, men actually would rather deal with women than they would with other men, which might go a certain way to explain why when violence happens, it's usually one man doing it to another man rather than two women doing it, or a woman doing it to a man or a man doing it to a woman. But that's neither here nor there. Point being, if you are genuinely misogynist as a human being, I'm fairly certain you've gone through some severe trauma, either physical or psychological in your life, because that's not how a socially adapted human brain is supposed to function. Like even autistic people usually have an unreasonable connection to their mothers. So yeah, no, even people who have literal social disorders tend not to be misogynist. Yeah, moving on.
Mhm. This article is an analysis of the closely connected networks that are that sorry. Um,
Hmm.
it is a warning about the dangers of apathy and lack of education around organized hate in highly evolving technological spaces that will only continue to develop at a faster rate. But most of all, this article is a plea for any entity that has enough power to control a narrative, whether it be major corporations like Disney or entertainment journalists at Vanity Fair, to be aware of how hate is designed to manipulate those narratives without most people ever realizing it. Oh wow, manipulating narratives and stuff. Wow,
So, I do we need to purchase this person a mirror? What is this person's name again?
I um Doesn't say.
Okay. Well, regardless, person who read this article, you, sir, have absolutely no idea the size and shape of the glass house you are currently chucking boulders at.
It's not even a glass house. It's a glass mansion.
Yeah, it's glass fucking cathedral. The Notre Dame as designed by Corning Glass.
Actually, that sounds like a really cool. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a shame he's chucking like Grand Canyon sized boulders at the fucking thing. And he's probably gonna get impaled by a falling spire of glass.
Mm. All right. This is the full story of how organized bigotry latched itself onto the Star Wars sequel trilogy and won. It did not. It was just a very.
Well, I mean, if you want to consider Kathleen Kennedy's and Ryan Johnson's vehement disavowal of everyone who's ever loved Star Wars to be organized bigotry winning, then sure. But if we're actually going to entertain the notion of organized bigotry, I hate to be this guy, but it seems to be coming solely and only from your side. Like this is a too solid situation. You are complaining about something that literally only applies to you and your ilk, it seems.
Hey, Dom,
Yeah.
that was the intro to the article.
Oh my god. Well, strap in, folks.
What will be discussed? Topic number one. It actually has a list, like chapters.
Okay, well, at least this person is more organized than your average shyster on the internet. That being said, he is writing a dissertation basically, so good on you.
Chapter one, or topic one. Defining 21st century cultural wars, Gamergate, Cambridge Analytica, and rise of the alt-right. Then many topics of discussion within Chapter 1, Timeline of Outrage Media, What is Gamergate, White Nationalism, Targets the Star Wars franchise.
Again, no we didn't. As far as I know, the figureheads of what is actually constituting the alt-right don't give a shit about
Entertainment
or culture in general. And if they do, it's like a subset within a subset within a subset of if culture in general is like a mountain, the actual like alt-right portion of that is maybe a grain of sand, all things considered. And it's a grain of sand that everyone enjoys smacking around because it's so stupid. Yeah, moving forward. Unless he dipped out for a reason or something. Bum, bum. Can you hear me? Or have I gone bust? Okay. StreamYard has officially gotten to the point where the screen is frozen, so hopefully Brainstormer can still hear me. But if not, I'm sure he'll let me know eventually.
I'm back.
Okay, huzzah.
Yeah, sorry, I had to deal with something off screen.
Okay.
Okay, so chapter 2 is the new Gamergate, the rise of alt-right ideology in Star Wars fandom.
Once again, no such rise occurred. There was a rise of pushback against feminism other intersections of identitarianism. There was that, and there was pushback against various intersecting ideologies which center around victimhood and the idea of various different demographics being oppressed. There was that, but there was not in any way alt-right insurgencies in that. And very few people, if any, and I've spoken to most of them, that are actually figureheads in this movement are motivated in any way by hatred of minorities. Their hatred of pandering to there might be hatred of pandering to minorities, but here's the head fuck part for you at least. And again, speaking as someone who has various minority credentials, and Brainstorm also speaking as somebody who has some minority credentials, we don't like being pandered to because usually it means the character's personality and character traits get sidelined or ignored entirely in favor of them being a one-dimensional image of the black girl or the black guy or the woman or whatever. And that's not good writing. And that's the issue most people have. It fucks with the quality of things people love. And so people would rather get rid of it. It's nothing personal against minorities or even advocating for them, but it's getting in the way of good storytelling. And that's fucking annoying when you go to an entertainment medium to be entertained or just to find something to continue living for. Because that's what you're supposed to be for. It's supposed to be one of the reasons humans human. But what the fuck do we know, eh?
Moving on.
Moving forward.
So the mini chapters of chapter 2 was The Last Jedi polarizing, a Twitter analysis, all roads to YouTube and analysis, the Star Wars alt-right recruitment problem.
Again,
we'll get there. You don't have to. I'm just reading out what's listed. That's all.
Well, I just kind of like I do with the titles. I already have a problem with the title of the section. The term alt-right has a definition, and you are not using it to mean that thing. If you are in any way connecting it to the fandom gates, I guess is what you could call them. Either you are trying to read motives into into these movements that don't exist, or you simply don't know what the term alt-right means, in which case you probably shouldn't use it. So either become educated on what that term means and stop using it for things it doesn't apply to, or stop projecting motives and frameworks onto people that do not hold to those motives and frameworks. Okay? Yeah. Moving forward.
Chapter 3, How Far-Right Hate Turns into Fact.
Okay, at least he used far-right that time instead of alt-right, so I don't have to keep correcting him.
Danger of, quote-unquote, clickbait headlines. Yeah, like you don't do that.
Like every news media does, with audio video segments as well, by the way. Not to mention when they're posted on like YouTube and things. Like that's just taking advantage of people's need for like interest and adrenaline when they read the news. And literally every new organization since the 80s has done it, basically.
Socks, bots, and super users, hashtags and boycotts, lack of education about the dangers of online conversation.
Oh, So you do actually appear to have a problem with people having freedom of speech. You actually consider people's ability to have conversations online to be dangerous, and you want to get corporations and companies that are in charge of these platforms to stop these conversations.
Hmm.
Well, in that case, fuck you.
Hmm. Um, Chapter 4: Generational Cost of Hate. The alt-right's successful political attack against progressive culture.
The alt-right is a non-entity in most conversations, for one, and two, to call the alt-right successful at all is quite frankly a ludicrous and stupid motherfucking statement. As I said, the only three people that I can think of off the top of my head that are actually alt-right and have like meaningful followings in that sphere: Richard Spencer, John Francois Gary P., otherwise known as JF, and Baked Alaska. They are all of them. Well, maybe not Baked Alaska. I'm not as familiar with him as I am the other two. But Richard Spencer is a cartoon supervillain so stupid, as I said, that Dr. Draken, Dr. Doofenshmirtz, and Dr. Evil would laugh at them for being incompetent to his face. Um, JF is basically the same thing but French, so even worse. because because we all know how wishy-washy and non-committal the French tend to be. Except for lately, the French appear to actually be getting some of their shit together, but never mind. Um, but yeah, point being, the only figures that I'm aware of in the alt-right are woefully, woefully undersubscribed, or they're jokes, or both. Because no one takes them seriously, ironically, apart from the MSM, honestly. Like they call I think CNN multiple times has called Richard Spencer to weigh in on culture war stuff. And the reason why appears to be, I might be wrong, but it appears to be that he is the villain they would rather fight rather than the ones that rather than the people that actually exist, rather than the people that actually matter in the grand scheme of the culture war. Because they want themselves to be the unimpeachable moral paragon heroes, and they want their enemies to be the cackling, cartoonish villains. But unfortunately, all they can find whenever they look for people that disagree with them is actual people. So the one cartoonishly over the top villain that they found, i.e., Richard Spencer, is the one they keep trotting out because they would rather believe that everyone who disagrees with them is a cackling, histrionic quasi Nazi than believe that there's anything in their worldview that they haven't considered ever. Well, bad news, folks. You are not gods, and even if you were, you could still be wrong. So, um, yeah, the people who disagree with you, by and large, are people. I know that must be melting your freaking brain, but yeah, Richard Spencer's a joke to us even more so than he appears to be a joke to you. He's irrelevant and stupid, and quite frankly, I'm pretty sure he was dropped on his head as a child. Moving on.
Okay. And then the sub chapters, I guess, would be a better term, are the targeting progressive and diverse creatives, and mission completed. The Rise of Skywalker retcons The Last Jedi, because Last Jedi sucked, and it actually
Yeah,
went against a lot of J.J. Abrams' ideas that he had written out for the entire trilogy.
yeah. It and once again, this is the funny thing about zealots. Most of them are so convinced they're in the moral right that they will actually take credit for things that otherwise would be considered heinous. And in this case, that takes the form of Rian Johnson actually saying, I don't really like the mythic weight that Star Wars has, so I thought I would try to undermine it a little bit.
Hmm. Okay,
Dumbass.
moving on.
Yeah.
And then Chapter 5, What We Will Never Learn from Gamergate. What we never learned from Gamergate, and that's it.
Sweetheart, you don't. I'm calling it now. You probably don't know the first goddamn thing about Gamergate.
Right. Okay, so for the sake of time, we're just going to cover like the first part, like the first chapter of the first part, and then move on.
Yeah,
Okay.
today. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to this periodically throughout the coming weeks, I think.
Yep. Never Just Trolls, the reactionary right wing network behind the fandom to alt right pipeline. Steve Bannon, former executive chairman, Breitbart News.
Breitbart.
I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Brimlow, president, VDARE Foundation. Milo
Milo Yiannopoulos.
Milo Yiannopoulos, former editor.
It's a Jewish name, which is why this is funny. He's a gay Jew, and they're calling him out, right?
Yeah. Former editor, Breitbart News. Ben Shapiro, former editor at large, Breitbart News. Yeah, this it's like one of those connecting maps thing. Like I'm trying to think of a name. Like in those movies where like it has like that pyramid.
Oh, the spider's web
Yes.
chart, where it has the picture of one person, and then the long like convoluted piece of yarn that goes to the next person, that goes to the next, that goes to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's called the spider's web.
Okay. Either way. Then you got Paul Kersey, contributor VDare.com, Richard Spencer, a neo-Nazi activist, Dave Rubin, Blaze TV network host. I don't know most of these people.
You're you sweet summer child. You just compared Dave Rubin to fucking Richard Spencer. And incidentally, the video that really pulled the mask off Richard Spencer was leaked by Milo Yiannopoulos. So why the fuck are you acting like they are some like unified force? Because Milo literally, as far as I know, hates Richard Spencer guts and thinks that he's a loose cannon who needs to fucking shut up and go away. And I don't agree with Milo on much usually, but on that point, I think we both agree.
All right. Mike Trinovich, host the Alex Jones Show. Jack Posiobek, correspondent, One American News Network.
Once again, I find it hilarious that you will scream conspiracy theorist at literally anyone who questions your framework, and yet you might as well be saying, Hitler drank tea and so did the King of England, therefore England is responsible for Hitler somehow. That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson, author, 12 Rules of Life. Alex Jones, founder, Infowars.com. Paul Joseph Watson, editor, Infowars.com. Comic artist, Pro Secrets, YouTuber.
Okay, for all that I don't like EVS, and there's much that can be said about how much I don't like EVS, to class him even remotely in the same like universe as Richard Spencer or even Milo Yiannopoulos is, number one, kind of giving him too much credit, and number two, grossly mischaracterizing the man. And again, I have many reasons for disliking him, but he's not a Nazi. He's just kind of a dick. And he's kind of a dick not even for moral reasons, but for like abstract philosophical reasons that I could go into, but it would take me 20 minutes, and we're already going to spend like probably that long on this. So moving forward,
Mm-hmm. Tim Pool, YouTuber, Geeks Gamers, YouTuber, The Quartering, YouTuber. And the red circles for basically the YouTubers are spread hate against Lucasfilm employees slash Star Wars sequel trilogy. Not true. More they criticized and stuff. I mean, like, I don't know individually because I haven't really checked a lot of these guys out in a long time.
Tim Pool is one of the like most milquetoast centrists you can find in alternative media, and I don't think he barely even talks about like culture and entertainment stuff usually. But then again, the man releases like 5 videos a day on multiple channels, so like maybe he's had a couple. I don't know. I imagine he's weighed in occasionally, but like I don't think he's made a big crux of it or anything. Anyway, I gotta plug in my phone because the battery's dying. So I will be doing that as we keep going.
Okay. Defining 21st century culture wars, Gamergate, Cambridge Analytica, and the rise of the alt-right.
Gamergate and the alt-right are barely connected at best, and I'm betting that you don't understand why Gamergate was a thing and is a thing.
In 2018, revelations about the UK-based data firm Cambridge Analytica revealed that the firm had used data from 50 million Facebook profiles to target users with personalized and politically driven advertisements. The ads were often racist in nature, fueling the spread of white supremacy and racist fear into the mainstream and successfully manipulating presidential elections in Africa, India, the UK, and the US.
Okay, how are you defining any of those terms? Because your hysteria in previous parts of this article suggests to me that you don't define those words in the same way everyone else does. And so you're banking on everyone associating your definition with their definition. And given that you're speaking two different languages, you need to define your terms. Because here's the thing, once again, you can't just you can't keep the moral indignation against racism if you change the definition of racism. If you change the definition of a word, people's reaction to the word is going to change accordingly. So if you soften and loosen the definition of those words to such a point that they don't mean the same thing anymore, don't be surprised when people stop reacting to those words as though they're the worst thing in the world.
Right. At the center of this controversy was Steve Bannon, former White House chief strategist for Donald Trump, former executive chairman of far-right media site Breitbart, and former vice president of Cambridge Analytica. Bannon is credited by whistleblowers of the Cambridge Analytica scandal as an important figure who sought to destabilize governments in influential regions around the world and shift their politics towards populism and far-right extremism.
Okay, this is gonna be one of those my brain is melting sort of rants here. Okay, most of the countries to which you are referring, okay, are at least tangentially related to democracy. Why this is important because you listed populism in your list of things that we're supposed to find bad there. And here's the thing. The word populace and the original Greek word demos from which we get the word democracy are basically translations of the same fucking concept. So frankly, if a country is in any way democratic and it isn't populist, there is something wrong. Democracy by its very nature is supposed to be populist because populist and demos mean the same fucking thing. So basically, by calling something a democracy, you're as good as saying it should be populist. And if you call something populist, you're as good as saying it should be democratic, at least from a political perspective. So populism cannot be a negative thing in anything other than an authoritarian government or a dictatorship. You dipshit beyond all reckoning. Populism is not even it isn't even a moral force. It is a necessary component of functioning democracies. And yes, I know we're a democratic republic, and yes, I know England is technically a parliamentary democracy, but the same rule applies. If your system is in any way caring about the people, then it's going to by its very nature be populist unless something is broken and fucked up. Because elitism is something they have in monarchies and other variations on aristocracy. We do not have it, and specifically do not want it in anything resembling a democracy, you dipshits. Moving on.
Great. Okay. Christopher Wiley, data scientist for Cambridge Analytica, states that Bannon was interested in the firm because Bannon follows the idea of the Breitbart doctrine, which is that if you want to change politics, you first have to change culture. He stated that Bannon wanted weapons to fight a cultural war.
Back the fuck up. That is not. It may very well be Breitbart's doctrine, but you're setting that up as though that in and of itself is supposed to be the scary thing. But that is not something that is unique to Breitbart if it is in fact their doctrine. That is something you can find taught to you in literally every feminist theory or race theory or gender studies or theory class in the country. That the whole nature of social activism is basically founded on the principle, at least the identitarian kind of activism is founded on the principle that politics is downstream from culture. You absolute dipshit. And that is something that you can find coming out of the mouths of a member of Antifa. Probably more so than you could coming out of fucking Breitbart. And even if his goal is to change the culture, that doesn't mean he would in any way be effective at it. And I mean, you say he was a former Trump staffer, not to get too overly political about this, but do you really think anyone that worked for Trump and then got fired is competent enough to manage such a thing? Really? And you are doing with Steve Bannon what I've seen some people ostensibly on our sides, but kind of a little bit kookier, say about like George Soros. And yet, when we say it about George Soros, a person well documented to have actually financially bankrupted several small countries, we get called conspiracy theorists. But when you say it about a relative nobody like Steve Bannon, who was a prominent journalist at one or two publications and a Trump staffer, and not even in a very high position, you consider that to be perfectly sane and perfectly reasonable, and in no way conspiratorial. You, sir or madam, are fucked in the head. Royally. Moving forward.
Bannon's culture war against progressive politics was also fought through his work as executive chairman of Breitbart News, a radical conservative site commonly credited with bringing the alt-right ideas of white supremacy, anti-identity politics, and anti-liberal journalism into the mainstream.
Okay, let's run through that list of things you think he brought into the mainstream again, because there are like 3 different flat out contradictions in them. What was that list again? That list of things he's
Yeah, give me a second to scroll up again.
Okay.
Okay, ideas of white supremacy, anti-identity politics, and anti-liberal journalism into the mainstream.
Okay. white supremacy, by its very nature, is a identitarian politic. It is part of identitarianism. So how exactly the fuck could you be white supremacist and anti-identitarian at the same time? That is a flat out fucking contradiction. Secondly, liberalism in its classical sense implies individualism. So any politics based around groups or hive minds of different identities and demographics is by its very nature anti-liberal. So, and also the word you used to describe his enemy was not liberal, it was progressive. Liberal and progressive are not the same fucking thing, you idiots. Liberalism was born out of the Enlightenment. Progressivism was born out of Hegel's dialectical theory of history, which was then taken by Marx, which was then taken by the Frankfurt School and applied it to literally everything from culture to fucking science to anything else you want to name under the sun. So by its very nature, it is not liberal, which is why you often see people who march with Antifa and proudly say so, writing things on walls like the liberals get the bullet too, because they consider liberalism to be a roadblock to things like anarcho-communism or anarcho-syndicalism or whatever. In the same way, the radical identitarian right considers liberalism to be a soft, wet, centrist position that is getting in the way of their glorious ethno-state. In any case, any position that is going to be against identity politics probably is going to be more in favor of liberalism in its classical, actually definable sense than progressivism. So, no, you don't get to just use the word liberal willy-nilly like it doesn't mean any goddamn thing. If you're going to use a term without offering an alternate definition for it, then I'm going to assume you're using the actual proper definition, and if you're using the actual proper definition of liberal, you are wrong. Dipshit. Moving on.
Right, okay. Breitbart's success leverages a long timeline of conservative outrage media culture that was harnessed by Rush Limbaugh in the 1980s and perfected by Roger Ailes in Fox News. The quick acceleration of technology and the creation of social media platforms in the mid to late 2000s created centralized communities that were easy for conservative outrage media to target and radicalize.
That may very well be true, but it has almost next to nothing to do with the culture war. And once again, I'd like to point out that conservative and anti-SJW are not necessarily synonymous with each other. They're not even majority synonymous with each other. Most people in the anti-SJW sphere are probably just people who want to be left the fuck alone by both moralizing sides of the political spectrum. We just did a story in the previous segment where we bitched at Christians for getting outraged over Satan iconography. So I don't want to hear it. I'm against moralism no matter who's doing it. And I am left wing. Brainstormer is the most like apolitical centrist you can imagine. So the fuck.
I don't know, like, should we cover the timeline or just move to the end part of this section and move on?
I mean, maybe we can come back to it at the end of the actual text part of the article.
Okay. It is kind of long and all, and so it's just like I wasn't really sure. Bannon found the key to enacting political change in online gaming communities, which would become the stage for Bannon's so-called 21st century war on culture. More specifically, he found the base he would need to fuel traffic for Breitbart in the infamous attack on women in the video game industry known as Gamergate. Bannon tells author Joshua Green in his book Devil's Bargain, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump and the Storming of the Presidency. You can activate that army. They come in through Gamergate or whatever, and then get turned onto politics and Trump.
That's not him saying. Okay, God. That's not him. That's not him saying that he controlled or instituted Gamergate, you conspiratorial fuckwit. It's him saying he took advantage of something that already existed, and that some people who might be inclined to supporting Trump also might be inclined to supporting Gamergate. And also, Gamergate was not an attack on women as some kind of platonic or neoplatonic collective. It was an attack on some individual women based on their individual actions and individual arguments and individual fucking desires. Midnight? Okay. We can move on whenever.
Right. Well, okay. Again, like, do you want to? Because that's like the end of that, of like the opening for this section. And then like it's what is Gamergate? Do you want to go back to the timeline or?
No, we can keep. Oh well, yeah, we can go through the timeline, I guess.
Okay, so Christ Almighty, these guys really do want to talk.
Well, is each bullet point like a sentence, or is each bullet point like a paragraph?
It's a diagram.
Oh, okay. Then this should be relatively easy to go through.
Well,
Maybe.
by diagram I mean like a timeline diagram, which has like little paragraphs of each decade, and some of them get kind of long and stuff, and like.
Okay, how far back does it go to?
The 80s.
Okay, this shouldn't be too bad to cover, maybe.
Okay. I think after.
I mean, we don't have to, but.
Honestly, I just want to get to actually like reading the actual part of the article. This just seems like it's there for.
Yeah, it's probably just restating shit he said in the text part already.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's yeah.
What is Gamergate? And like this is where we're gonna end it. Like we're gonna finish with this and then move on.
Yeah.
Okay. In August 2014, that doesn't seem that long ago. Game developer Zoe Quinn's ex-boyfriend, Imran. Sorry. Iran Gijoni released a blog post accusing Quinn of receiving positive reviews on their game Depression Quest from Nathan Grayson, a writer for Kotaku, because the two were in a relationship. Gijoni accused Quinn of cheating on him and released personal information about her in the post. The clear, angry attack of a disgruntled ex-boyfriend was quickly transformed into a frenzy against ethics in gaming journalism, which is entirely fair. I mean,
yeah, because it became obvious that there was actually a systemic problem, if you like, as to people getting reviews for their games not based on the actual merits of the games, but based on the politicking and networking skills of the creators of said games, and or the ideologies that were common among the journalists themselves, namely like intersectional feminism. And that's a problem because people who aren't intersectional feminists don't tend to subscribe to intersectional feminist worldview, and therefore don't judge games based on moral reasons. Or if they do, it's a different paradigm. Moving on.
As the attacks against Quinn spread online, Joni continued to post personal information about their whereabouts. At one point, he anonymously posted on 4chan reports of the hotels Quinn had stayed at. He also gave the legal complaint Quinn had filed against him to Roosh, an online personality described as a male supremacist extremist by the Southern.
By who? He does he describe himself that way, or is that more of your relabeling redefinition garbage? Or is that your take on somebody else's take on him? Because again, almost nobody defines themselves as a male supremacist. No one. They functionally don't exist, man. Seriously. Moving forward.
Yeah, okay. By the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Okay, so it is somebody else's secondhand information you're going off of. Fabulous.
The legal complaint was used to attack Quinn on his website Return of Kings.
Oh, you're talking about that Rouge V. Yeah, he's not a male supremacist. He's a pickup artist. They're different. Pickup artists are people who basically try to use like psychological tricks and persuasion tactics and salesmanship to try to court women and teach other people how to do so, because some men are socially inept or socially awkward and can't or don't have the tools to woo women. That's not male supremacy. That's just kind of tacky.
Misogynistic attacks against Quinn spread to other influential people in the video game industry, including feminist YouTuber Anita Sarkeesian. Not really a YouTuber anymore.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Criticizing a woman for her merits is not misogyny. And it's not some kind of slight against the broad hive mind of women as a whole. It's that individual woman and that individual woman's actions, deeds, qualifications, and arguments. That's not misogyny. That's just you are shitty at your job, and some people find occasionally over the top ways of telling you that you are shitty at your job. And given that the person who you are talking about, the guy that basically blew the whistle on her, eventually ended up committing suicide because of how manipulative she was. I find it very hard to feel bad for her, especially because she still to this day gets work in basically any entertainment field she wants. DC gave her her own standalone comic book. Do you know how long it takes for somebody like DC to give you a standalone comic book? Especially given that you've never written a comic before. Nobody else gets that level of special treatment. Only her, because she's a feminist freaking martyr. Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. Sarkeesian is most known for her YouTube channel, Feminist Frequency. That was fucking bull. I've watched some of that stuff. It's not.
Yeah, she's known not. This is the funny thing. She's not actually most known for her videos. She's known for playing the victim every time someone offers her criticism that's a little bit too harsh in her definition. She literally went to the UN and begged the UN to censor the internet because people were being mean to her. Not even lying. That is a thing that not only happened but was allowed to happen. She wanted to put a motion before the UN, and the UN just said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" You assholes. And once again, I'd just like to point this out. One side gets hit pieces like this written about them. The other side gets invited to the U freaking N on basically what amounts to an ambassador's visa.
Mm-hmm.
What,
Yes.
what does that say about who holds the power in this civilization of ours?
Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where she critiques video games through a feminist lens. Her platform primarily calls for less sexualization and murder of women in games.
I wouldn't say it primarily calls for that, but I mean, that is something that she is known for. But since we're talking about Anita Sarkeesian, I might as well address this. Women occasionally like to look sexy in media because sexuality is a power. And by depriving them of that power of sexuality, you are actually oppressing the choices of women and men and any other gender you care to name who happens to like video games or whatever.
There actually is a girl I like in terms of fiction, and I'm sure you can guess who, Dalton, who is not like overtly sexualized or anything. Just badass character, also a badass character. Azula from Avatar: Last Airbender.
And once again, I must point out, I do not think she would be good for you, and I think I would have to kill her.
But again, I'm like, in terms of like the example brought up is that she's not overtly sexualized. I mean, she is hot. I'm not.
Yeah, she is beautiful,
Yeah.
and even her deadliness is somewhat beautiful.
No,
Because
I'm aware. I am very much aware.
yeah, I was just saying for the sake of the audience, like yeah, Azula is hot. Granted, I wouldn't trust her. I wouldn't trust her as far as like a kicker, and me being literally unable to kick basically anything. But that being said, yeah, she's hot.
Okay. These critiques led to bomb threats against her life, which required her to cancel public speaking engagements at Utah State University. Okay, like stuff like this, like that extreme stuff. Well, I think I'm not going to deny that there is a possibility that this shit happens.
Yeah,
because it does.
I don't think it was a serious bomb threat. I think it was mostly trolling, but
that's still fucked up and really stupid.
Yeah. Also, the fact that she gets speaking engagements, once again, one side has maybe one major figurehead in publishing. One side gets paid $5,000 for an hour of giving speeches. So, which side is supposed to be the underdog in this situation again?
Okay, so this section is a lot longer than I anticipated because I did scroll down. So we're gonna read. So instead of like trying to finish off this section,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have to finish. We're gonna have to just read a few more paragraphs and then call it, and then try to finish it next week.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a really fucking long article.
Yeah, this guy wrote a dissertation on this, basically.
I hate you, Don, for sending this. I really do.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. And you wouldn't be the first.
Other women attacked included Brianna Wu, a game developer who posted a meme mocking the group of gamers who were threatening women's lives. After threats against her life, she was forced to go into hiding.
Were those threats, or were those "I hope you die in a fire" comes? Because that's just the usual bullshit trolling that happens on YouTube or Twitter. Saying "I hope you die in a fire" is not a threat. It is a sign of exasperation, basically. It's not smart, and it only serves to make the person you throw it at more powerful, usually. But some people are dumb.
This event developed the current playbook of how to weaponize the internet to carry out mass threats, doxing, and abuse against women, people of color, and members of the LGBTQ plus community. The goal.
Okay, what about those of us in said communities that supported Gamergate and were or considered ourselves Gamergaters at the time? Because yeah, hi, gay guy, gay disabled guy. I am a Gamergator. Thanks.
I can't
Don't.
really say so because like I was kind of young at the time when it was
Yeah.
going on. I never really knew about it until like.
And I'll admit that I got in towards like the end of what was Gamergate, but that being said, I still proudly consider myself a Gamergator, and I would consider myself a comic theater if somebody hadn't come in and co-opted that like a son of a bitch, but never mind. And so on and so on and so on. So yeah, what about those of us of minority status who are in these movements and who dislike things like feminism? You don't really have an answer, do you, person who wrote this article? Because to you, that either means that we must subconsciously hate ourselves or that we're stupid. And yet you can somehow say that, minority people hate themselves or they're stupid, but nobody else can say that. Fucking interesting. Moving forward.
Um, this event. I read that. Sorry. The goal of these tactics is always to stop unwanted progress of diversity into culture that these groups have identified as their territory.
No, it is stopping the ideology of social justice from interfering with the proper functioning of these areas of culture. And diversity is only a problem insofar as it is the weaponized ammunition of this ideology. Nobody, or vanishingly nobody, has a problem with diversity in and of itself. What they have a problem with is when these characters either get reduced to one-dimensional caricatures of these things, like Iceman getting turned into a flamboyant gay man, or Captain America becoming a lispy freaking twink with piercings, as we covered a couple weeks ago, instead of actually telling good, interesting, compelling stories with characters that just so happen to be these minorities. And again, speaking as somebody who's part of some of these minorities, it annoys me that the characters that I'm supposed to be expected to relate to are annoying little shit who I want to punch, usually.
Hmm. Okay, Paul Booth. Okay. Paul Booth, a professor at DePaul University, explains that today angry internet moms routinely use the threat of rape, bombings, and assassinations as a way to lay claim to whatever it is they think they're losing to
They're,
they describe as political correctness.
they're not threats, they're signs of exasperation and occasionally playful um playful insults. Okay. Secondly, again, on the other side of this argument, you have people weaponizing Twitter mobs and angry Twitter mobs to get people fired and to prevent people from having bank accounts and shit. Which of these you think is the more substantive problem? That's the thing. That's the thing. You don't notice when your side misuses social media, only when the morally inferior people do so. They're, even if the results are not as bad. But anyway, moving on.
Mm. Give me a sec. I gotta wipe my eyes. Something's in them.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And along the way, they've adopted new approaches that combine old school writing campaigns with internet terror efforts like publishing people's private information online with the intent of bringing chaos and fear into their lives.
Okay, that is called doxing, and no one approves of it. No one. And also, for every one of the times where someone from Gamergate doxed somebody, I can show you 10 where somebody from social justice doxed somebody specifically to get them fired or to get them taken off of a project they were working on or to prevent them from having a bank account again. Which of these groups has the actual power in civilization, and which of these groups is basically a grassroots mob of ne'er-do-wells?
Okay, so this paragraph is going to be the last one, and then we're going to call it here and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
Vox describes these angry internet mobs as men's rights act, men's in like quotations, I believe. Well, no, not quotations, I'm mine. Men's rights activists, white nationalists, and neo-reactionaries that Gamergate united and around indignation over the inroads that women and minorities had also made into video game culture, previously dominated by young white men.
Okay. It's time to pull down my hat, straighten my bow tie, whittle my mustache, and get fucking serious. Thing one of many. Why the fuck do I care, or should anyone be expected to care what Vox thinks? Thing two. Men's rights is not a conservative movement and has nothing to do with restraining the rights of women. It has to do with equalizing the rights of men, usually by providing them with rights they do not currently and have never had historically. Like, for example, the end to male circumcision, because it's barbaric, no matter how clinically and surgically it's done. Or the development of a male birth control pill that is more effective than condoms, which is basically the only birth control men have, or legal paternal surrender, or the equalization of custody in the family courts so that women don't automatically get um, uh, custody rights de facto. These are positions held by legitimate MRAs, and I know because I am one. Nothing about that is conservative. Most of that is what you could call progressive, considering that it's essentially lobbying for the acknowledgement of rights that are currently not being acknowledged and have never been acknowledged historically, i.e., it's not conserving anything, it's creating new shit. Secondly, there is no evidence whatsoever that the race of anyone had anything to do with anything. And number three, women and minorities have always been involved in gaming culture, and several of those women and minorities in gaming culture are on the side of things like Gamergate. Again, gay, cripple, religious minority here. Brainstormer is mixed race and an inner city person. Also body positivity if we wanted to go there, but never mind. But being that as it may, we are anti-SJWs, and we are also minorities. So get this notion of demographic warfare out of your freaking head. What people have a problem with is a particular ideology that goes by social justice. That is what people have a problem with. And the fact that this ideology decides to use certain people of minority background as what amount to human shields is not a defense. it is in fact kind of what makes social justice so fucking terrifying. They will use people they've never met as human shields just because they happen to share a particular demographic. This is exactly why, in addition to the hashtag Gamergate, there was also this this hashtag called Not Your Shield, which was basically a hashtag for minority people, saying stop using me as a human shield, you cunts. And incidentally, not your fucking shield, cunt. Moving on.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, that's what we're calling it for this week.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That took out every last bit of composure I had just to not break my fucking phone.
Okay. The bad say stuff. Have y'all seen Bird Girl on Adult Swim? First episode is free to watch on YouTube on Adult Swim YouTube channel, and I loved it.
I have not. I didn't even realize that was a thing until just now.
I saw the trailer. It looked cool. It's been a long time since I've seen like Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. Like I watched that growing up. Whenever I was late at night.
I didn't realize it was a continuation or sequel to Harvey Birdman. Now I'm actually intrigued to watch it.
Yeah.
Dang.
So moving on to a website we haven't really covered in a very long time, like almost 2 years.
Dang.
This is from theguardian.com. How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe by James Grieg.
Oh boy.
This was published March 27th, 2021. Yeah. Please also keep in mind that this is an opinion piece. And
yeah. And we're going to be criticizing him for his opinion being poorly thought out and poorly structured, if anything.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of set in its own universe away from it, but it's respectful to the character and what they're trying to do. Same characters, but in different style of show.
Interesting.
Jinx, by the way. You owe me a lot of soda.
I do. Unfortunately, I don't drink soda, so I will have no problem handing a bunch of it over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the subheader is: I devoured 20 films in a month-long frenzy, but I can't quite shake off the guilt that comes with this guilty pleasure. Okay.
Then my question is, why do you consider the MCU a guilty pleasure? Or are you just that much? Go ahead.
No, I'm not entirely sure that he means it as a guilt. That the MCU itself is. Does he?
I'm pretty sure he means the entire MCU is a guilty pleasure. Based on skimming through the rest of this article before I sent it, yeah, it seems like he wants to forgive himself, quote unquote, for liking the MCU in some way or other.
Right.
Which implies to me that he's just a smug twit, and he needs to get over himself.
Yeah. Okay. I started England's second lockdown last year with good intentions. I was broke and underemployed, and since it didn't look like my economic circumstances would be improving anytime soon, I was determined to emerge from the pandemic rich in cultural capital. I got nothing to say.
I don't really have a problem with that. That's perfectly admirable.
Yeah. I decided to work my way through the British Film Institute's directors poll of the 100 best films ever made, and soon I was watching art house films like there was going to be an exam at the end of the pandemic. Um, okay,
O-
I got
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we all know that critics overpraise and overhype art school shit that makes their it makes them look intelligent because they um operate on the same art school mentality and they like feeling smug in comparison to the filthy peasants who watch movies to actually be, immersed and entertained and edified and shit instead of just fucking parlor games.
okay. This wasn't purely about self improvement. Many of these films I found straightforwardly entertaining or moving, while some were more challenging, i.e., boring, but rewarding in different ways. Felt like a good use of time, but then one Friday evening, it all came crashing down. My younger brother suggested that we watch Captain America and the Winter Soldier on the tantalizing promise that it was not as bad as you might expect.
Okay, well, it seems like this person is also kind of a bit of a smug twit if you're selling Captain America um Civil War on it's not as bad as you might expect.
The Winter Soldier.
It's or Winter Soldier. It seems like either he knows you're a bit of a smug elitist twit and was trying to soft pedal it to you, or he is also a smug elitist twit and would agree with you that there's something to be guilty over for liking the MCU, which is just stupid. Feeling guilty over liking what you like in general is kind of stupid unless like my rule is just understand why you like what you like and have a reasonable argument. But, you know, apart from that, you shouldn't feel guilty
Mm,
for liking anything. As long as you understand why you like it and you are willing to argue the case, have at it. I I admit to liking Son of the Mask, for fuck's sake. I have no stones to throw here. Apart from the fact that I embrace the fact that I like it and I don't feel guilty. Because I find guilt to be counterproductive at the best of times and utterly nonsensical in entertainment terms.
mm. Prior to this, it wasn't so much that I disliked Marvel films, but that I'd stake staked a claim in being the kind of person who didn't watch them. Okay, I'm not like that's fine. Like I don't really see. I'm not. That's not really a problem for me.
I think it's a bit smug that you like. It's a little bit like, funnily enough, the one who defined her identity based on the fact that she didn't like Game of Thrones. In
Oh,
in in, in that one article we covered,
yeah.
I find it a little bit odd that his whole, or at least some portion of his identity is founded on the notion of I'm I'm not like those people who enjoy those tut tut superhero movies.
Actually,
It's
don't. The next line kind of is actually that.
okay. Hit
I'm
me.
not like if you want to finish your point, please finish your point. I'm not.
No, it's I'm even just from that line, I can already feel the smug elitism of yes, those peasants and their superhero movies. It's just I fuck you and your elitism, cunt. Is where my brain is going there. But yeah, let's let him dig himself in deeper.
All right. I opposed them as a symbol of I opposed them as a symbol of cultural decline, a phenomenon that had destroyed cinema. I was at least partly correct on both counts. Hollywood's seeming inability to think of anything new can be traced back in part to the franchise's success. Yeah, okay, fuck you right there. Like that is a big fuck you from me.
Yeah, no. You were wrong on both counts, and both counts imply that you were a smug cunt.
Yeah, okay, but just so like I don't come across just like a reactionary douchebag, my argument for it is, while I mean, granted, I think we are more fans of comic book movies in general, or comic book um, television slash movies.
Yeah, comic genre,
Yeah,
basically.
the comic genre. Granted, superheroes have kind of taken the forefront in comics and stuff, media.
Well, yeah, it's the primary sort of genre in the medium of comics.
Right.
So
I'm not arguing that. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying, like, I think us being like the main thing is like superheroes themselves not are kind of better than, like, their stories can be better than most like novels or other classic films. Not to
yeah,
like the greatest.
it's okay. Okay. I think I get what Brainstormer's getting at, and I think I can phrase it in a slightly more succinct way. To say that any kind of art is lower or beneath any other kind of art is a nonsensical, ludicrous statement.
Right. Yeah.
It
That's
does it doesn't matter the medium you choose to tell a story or the genre in which you choose to tell a story. It matters the method you use to tell a story and the content therein. I would put something like Neil Gaiman's Sandman up against any piece of modern literature. Any. Apart from maybe something also written by Neil Gaiman. Although even then, I'd say I'm within a pretty decent shot of winning because I consider Sandman to be one of Neil Gaiman's magnum opuses. Although, granted, he has one of those basically every other week because Neil Gaiman is genius, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and to say that the thing currently sustaining the financial solvency of cinema is a blight on cinema is stupid beyond reckoning, and furthermore shows an ignorance of the nature of filmmaking history in general. Because if you knew filmmaking history, you would know this happens with literally every genre under the sun. Anytime a genre is new and risky, the established old guard film press hate its guts. Happened with westerns, happened with family oriented movies, happened with sci-fi, happened with action movies, happened with literally every movie you can imagine. Whenever a genre is new, it has to take its lumps in order to be considered a valid art form. And the longer people have this ludicrously over the top hatred of superhero content, the longer superhero content is going to stay alive. You want to know why? Because the more you amp up the mountain that it has to climb, the more effort it's going to put in to climb that mountain. If you make it hard to accept superhero movies in the upper crust zeitgeist, the more the people who make superhero movies and the people who like superhero movies are going to go, fuck you, I'll show you how awesome this genre can be, just like every other fucking genre. Because like we said, it doesn't matter what story you're telling or what medium you choose to tell it in or what genre you use to tell it in. It matters how you tell it, what the story is it any good, and so on.
um
And no medium is without the potential for making a good story. Again, I could list a bunch, but we've already gone this point. So moving on.
mm, um okay, so that night I was misspelled there. Skeptical.
Thinks he's too good for superhero movies and superhero genre, but can't spell skeptical without an editor.
Yeah, it's a instead of a K, it's a C. Um, that night I was skeptical but curious. In the end, the film wasn't.
That might just be one of those British translation issues. Because
I I kind of doubt that.
you know how they spell color with a U sometimes and so on.
Okay, if that's the case, then I retract my previous statement. But still,
Mhm. I'm not retracting my joke because it was mostly just a joke to point out how pompous and elitist this guy is, and I don't think that's false. So
no. All right. That night I was skeptical but curious. In the end, the film wasn't exactly a revelatory experience. Doesn't mean, but I enjoyed it well enough. I don't. I
see, this is the thing that always gets me with these people. Um, the people who think they're too good for a particular genre of entertainment. They have to actually fight themselves because they a part of them enjoys the thing, and then they have to intellectualize their way out of liking the thing rather than having the self-awareness to go, I like this, so where did my understanding of it go wrong previously? Because that's the, that's the way mature people, for lack of a better word, handle finding out information they previously didn't know, or realizing that their tastes are different than they thought they would be. It's okay, clearly there's a problem with how I was thinking. Let me correct that. But no, not these sorts of people. With these sorts of people, they have to either talk themselves out of it or find some elaborate, abstract woo-woo sort of way to justify their reaction rather than just maybe superhero content can produce stories that are as good or better than any other genre, just like every other genre. That that is the intellectually honest and consistent conclusion to draw. It's superhero movies or superhero content is no better and no worse than any other genre. But nope, he's not gonna go there. He's gonna try to woo his way out of it. Moving forward.
yeah. Okay. Prior to this, it wasn't so much that I dislike Marvel films, but that I don't know. No,
You backtracked.
no, that's
Wait, is he repeating himself? Hmm?
I'm. Oh no, I backtracked. That's my bad. I forgot to scroll down.
Okay, I was like this
Sorry.
seems
No, that was on me. That was on me. My bad.
okay.
Yeah, I forgot to scroll down. Yeah. Okay. After a certain point, I recognized that I was doing this because I was enjoying it. I liked making fun of the films. I've never laughed harder at a film that when, during a pivotal fight scene in Captain Marvel, Brie Larson's character rejects the pseudonym that her alien captors have given her and finally declares, "My name is Carol." Okay, at least he's taking shots at all the movies. So
Okay, there is that, but also I mean we've all had the so bad it's good movie, but really the MCU is where you're getting you're you're classing the MCU in the you're processing the MCU in the same way most people process like The Room or Ed Wood. Either you haven't seen many bad movies, sir, and so you don't know how low the threshold can actually go, or you are just a very smug, very elitist cunt. I'm clumping for option two until I see evidence to the contrary, because so far you seem like a very pompous, aristocratic, dense cunt, and I would not want to be in the same room as you because I get the feeling you'd get me a contact high off of your own self-important fucking ego.
right. While also getting sincerely sucked in during Ant-Man, I was moved to tears by the death of a not even an anthropomorphized insect called Anthony. Um, Now, having seen almost all of them, I have a balanced view. Hold on.
I'll be the judge of that. I don't think your view is very balanced, judging by how elitist you're being or have been so far.
Ah,
Bless you, by the way.
thank you. That hurt. My chest and my back.
Yeah, I've had a few of those.
No, it's like because like my back, my chest still hurts.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that did make it a lot worse.
Oh God, it's like I got stomped. Oh, okay, I'm good. I'm good. Honestly, I think I popped an eardrum.
Ooh, oh dear, that always hurts like a motherfucker.
Ah. Okay. In their favor, they're zippy and well paced up until their bloated final acts. Uh, yes
It
and
dep it depends on the movie, and it depends on the justification for the final act, and it also depends on your definition of bloated.
yeah. They,
So yeah, once again, I get the feeling this is going to be you being a petty, vindictive little bitch because you went into these movies not wanting to like them, and so you're now having to have an internal struggle with yourself because you found, to your horror, that you were wrong and that you like something that the peasants like. That seems to be the gist of it. You thought you were better than everyone who likes Marvel movies until you tried Marvel movies, and now it turns out you also like Marvel movies, but you can't wrap your head around being wrong, so you now need to backtrack like a motherfucker to try and save your own ass. Moving forward.
um. Okay. Okay. They can be funny. Actually, Don and I have had many discussions on the MCU recently. Just like when we hang out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, the criticisms he has, like while not greatly defined, are
Yeah, they can apply. It's just he's not being specific as to what they apply to, and he's trying to act as though every movie makes the same mistakes, which is not true. I
no.
mean, you can make arguments for common mistakes, but to to say a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is as bad as Thor: The Dark World or Captain Marvel, or even, in my opinion, Endgame, would be stupid.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The narrative ambition to link all these stories together, taken as a whole, is impressive. Most of all, I enjoyed the scenes where characters show up at well-timed moments, just when all hope is lost. Here comes Doctor Strange. I found moments of them genuinely stirring, even as I felt embarrassed by the goosebumps on my arm.
Once again, this seems very much like a your own ego is the problem.
Right. Okay.
Because once again, it seems very much like you thought in your arrogance, in your haughtiness, in your quasi aristocratic bullshit that there must surely be nothing worthwhile about these superhero movies, and now you find yourself actually enjoying them, so you have to come up with some bastardized reason as to why, don't you? Because you can't admit that you were wrong and that superhero movies aren't that bad, or might actually even be as good as literally every other fucking genre under the sun. Moving on.
Right. Martin Scorsese's criticism of Marvel films as akin to theme parks are both accurate and not necessarily an insult. Yeah, we've actually covered this as well, I believe, right?
Yeah, and to that I would once again say, Mark, you know the history of film well enough to know that cinematography was originally a literal theme park attraction. So you can miss me with all this high-minded artsy bullcrap.
No, but I think I was kind of playing devil's advocate, kind of like I can understand what he means. Like, like with Disney, there is kind of a constraint to not let the stories naturally evolve to um
Yeah, but my query is how much of all of movie making is Martin Scorsese going to throw in the garbage because it doesn't meet his artsy fartsy standards. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say every mainstream blockbuster probably qualifies in his mind, and that therein lies the problem, and also the inherent elitism of trying to act as though film was never ever a theme park attraction or never ever meant
don't,
to just be entertaining. Sorry.
um okay. So moving on. Okay, it's more like the problem with Martin Scorsese's statement is more of how does he define Marvel movies as a theme park attraction?
Yeah, and also his attitude in general of standing in judgment over them like he's the fucking arbiter of what art is.
Moving forward.
Moving forward.
Yeah. All right. As for the bad, they're visually hideous, and I mean, yes and no. Like it's again, like it's a case by case scenario.
Yeah, and you can't say something like, again, Guardians of the Galaxy looks exactly the same as Captain America Civil War or Winter Soldier. In fact, you really can't say this about the the cosmic side of the MCU. Because one of the biggest issues with street level MCU is the fucking color grading. Makes everything look washed out and um dingy and gray. Most of the time when things go weird and cosmic, there's at least enough color to justify itself.
Yeah. It's this weird thing with a lot of like kind of action movies these days, where like visually the color is a little drained and muted in some cases. Like there are some some of the early most like phase one I think had a little more
Pop.
yeah,
And it was probably due to the fact that they were originally shooting on actual film instead of digitally. Um,
and like the editing, like they didn't tone down the
yeah,
colors.
yeah.
But
Compare your average street level MCU movie to something like John Wick, which uses color much better, or God forbid, compare um anything from the MCU to Godzilla King of Monsters, and you'll see what we mean. The
right.
the annoying thing of, you guys know we've had the color camera for decades, so why aren't you actually utilizing color again?
Um, okay, so with the possible extension of Black Panther, dude, the third act where they literally had CGI bodies.
Yeah, that CGI was not finished. I'm betting you picked Black Panther because it stroked whatever racial/moral feeling you needed at the time.
This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. And their politics are terrible. The moral lesson almost always being the American military is really cool.
When? When?
Captain America.
Like, even that, even then, like most of his first movie, the military were fucking dicks to him. Um, in his second movie, the like theme or the structure of the movie was literally America needs you to clean up the mess cap because we've been taken over by fucking Hydra. And in the third one, it was literally his whole argument was literally a plea for individualism, i.e., we're not perfect, but the safest hands are still our own. So fuck the government. That whole shenanigans.
Not even just a single government, the UN, like world governments telling them what they can and can't do.
Yeah, and again, if you want to say he's all gung ho for America, you've missed like 2/3 of the previous movies because it's like the second one was entirely about how you can believe in American values without trusting the American government, and the first one, again, the people who were the most dickish to him were the military. Remember Tommy Lee Jones' character, the asshole general who basically didn't believe he was ever going to amount to anything, and then benched him as like a mascot for the next third of the movie, and he had to go rogue to actually get anything done. You have not. And Iron Man used to be a weapons manufacturer, but he didn't become a good guy until he stopped doing it. So what the actual fuck
Well,
franchise have you been watching?
I mean, also you can make the argument that he was still a narcissistic, petty little jackass.
Well, yes, but
Most of the MCU,
that's not germane to the point he's making.
right? Okay, fair enough.
He's saying that any part of the MCU ever says the military is great. Even Captain Marvel, which, under normal circumstances I would not defend if it was on fire, but even that movie had her being beaten down and beat up by the military to the point that she didn't believe it herself, quote unquote. Or at least that was supposed to be the text of the movie. So, what franchise have you been watching? At every turn, the military gets shat on and shat on and shat on. And hell, even Sam Wilson's Falcon got benched by the military and he had to steal his wings back. So in most cases, and of course, there's the whole thing about General Ross being basically the representative of the wider military, and he's a dickhead, and everyone knows and acknowledges that he's a dickhead. So, qua? Yeah, you clearly haven't been paying attention. I'm betting he's gonna say the U.S. I'm betting he's going to imply that the fact that the military shows up as often as they do implies they're great, which is just dumb because they usually show up to show off how incompetent and stupid they are in comparison to everyone else.
I mean, to be fair, that is kind of the military. So,
well, yes, but I'm not criticizing the MCU for being anti-military. I'm saying it's stupid to say that the MCU is pro-military because the only times the military does show up is to show off how stupid they are, which they are, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
I'm responding to his point about how apparently the MCU is too.
Making a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. This is more than just incidental. Marvel has collaborated with the Department of Defense on a number of films. While the villain of Captain America and the Winter Soldier is ostensibly the U.S. deep state, this is only because it has been infiltrated by a fictional organization headed up by a Swiss robot. Actually.
Ja. Und you again, regardless of the MacGuffins involved, the gist of Winter Soldier was believe in American values and what America is supposed to stand for, but fuck in the ass the U.S. government.
Right.
Whether they've been infiltrated by Hydra or not, basically. And even if you wanted to say, well, Hydra is an easy out or whatever the fuck, there's still Civil War, which amounts to, again, fuck the government, I'm gonna do my own thing because I trust myself more than I trust the government. Any government. Like, Captain America might as well be a full-on libertarian in Civil War. we're not perfect, but the safest hands are still our own. That whole chestnut that he spent the entire movie defending against one of his best friends, even after he, is in the process of consoling him because his other best friend killed his mother. That whole thing, like you. Not only are you smug and elitist, but you just simply have not been paying attention. I'm curious. I'm seriously curious now what else you've woefully misinterpreted or um misdiagnosed just because you weren't paying fucking attention. Jesus Christ. Moving on.
Right. Also, he's a Brit, so he, probably just be shitting on America in general. So.
Well, I mean, I could respect that, but I don't think anyone from The Guardian is pro Britain because Britain has a similar self-hatred problem right now among its intelligentsia as America does.
I
I,
don't. I don't care. I really don't.
yeah, but still, he's a writer for The Guardian. There's no way he's pro Britain.
Well, I mean, that doesn't really. I'm not really implying that he is. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, then again, I guess most people across the pond do believe that however bad their countries might be, America's worse somehow. So,
oh, fuck off, you posh cunts.
yes,
I think I went British there for a sec.
you did, which is appropriate because you're channeling the British anger back at them.
Yeah.
Fuck off, you chav cunts.
Yeah. All right. You don't have to agree with the film's politics to find it enjoyable. There really aren't any politics, or well, if there are, then
They're very loose and or dependent on the director.
maybe in yeah.
The most you could make that argument for is Captain America, and as we just established, the politics that you claim are in those movies are not in those movies.
Yeah.
So the fuck.
All right. Find it enjoyable. Well, we don't have to pretend as regular Marvel directors. Sorry, hold on. Kind of tired. But we don't have to pretend as regular Marvel directors. The Russo brothers recently claimed of the Avengers films that they represent a powerful political tool, maybe for the Pentagon. Do I regret the hours I spent watching them? No, not really. I was so addicted to my phone at the time that doing literally anything else, even watching the trashiest film, felt as restorative as attending a monastic retreat. God, that really is such a pretentious thing to say.
Yeah, you sir. Like I'm glad that you're coming around to the MCU and to comic book movies in general, presumably, but god damn, you have such a woefully unwarranted superiority complex. I just want to smack you with a thesaurus until you learn better.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, yawning again.
No,
Uh,
it's fine.
the Marvel films forced me to ask myself an uncomfortable question. What will I actually enjoy watching more tonight? Something good or something bad? What did it say about me that the answer was so often the latter?
Okay, the fact that you define the MCU as bad, like on a level of so bad it's good, suggests to me that you haven't seen enough bad movies.
Yeah,
Like go through Ed Wood's entire filmography and The Room and basically anything that they would show on Mystery Science Theater 3000 and then tell me the MCU is bad. Go through the Michael Bay Transformers movies and then tell me the MCU is bad.
the first one was okay. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily disputing that. I'm just saying, for as much as people bitch and moan and whine and complain and schadenfreude the shit out of the MCU, they don't seem to remember that for basically a decade before the MCU, when Hollywood didn't have a major franchise to speak of, everything was shit, or at least worse than it is now. So, like, as bad as the MCU might be, according to your definition, a world in which the only major franchise is Michael Bay's Transformers or Adam Sandler movies is much worse.
Alright, I swapped self-improvement for self-knowledge. I came to accept that I was not especially sophisticated and that most of the time I just wanted to be entertained. Okay,
And
very
and
important.
yet you and yet you
On. May I? First,
sorry. Go
um,
ahead.
from what I'm understanding, this James, right? James, yeah, James. Um, is kind of in. From what I'm getting is kind of
Mhm.
uh, i- inferring that MCU movies are not sophisticated. Well, granted, yes, technically they are by definition, from what they are generally are blockbuster films. There is a lot of there is depth to most of the movies. Um, like what we got saying with like Captain America, his character arc through his movies, Iron Man throughout the entirety of the MCU, um, Peter Quill, and most of the Guardians of the Galaxy, where like they're all very broken people
Yeah.
and find solace and kind of better themselves through the found family that they create
Yeah.
together.
Steve Rogers' entire arc about going from being a wide-eyed idealist about America to being a staunch, like, individualist.
Hmm.
But I don't really mind the MCU isn't sophisticated line because quite frankly, I don't consider sophistication to necessarily be a good or bad thing. It
Right.
very much
Um,
it very much depends on context. My issue is the fact that he the fact that he still, even after this supposed come to Jesus moment he had, um, is is maintaining that the MCU is bad rather than maybe he still needs to have been right all along about the MCU. He can't acknowledge, hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't give the MCU enough of a chance before. He still needs to cling to the idea that they're bad, even as every fiber of his being is loving every minute of them. Like again, the self-aware point of that is, or version of that is, you think something about something, you are proven wrong by your own reaction to it, and then you internalize the fact that you were wrong and go forward with that information. But instead of doing that, he's caught between this weird rock and this weird hard place where, like, he has to still maintain that they're bad, even though every part of his body, apart from his brain, is enjoying them, and even his brain is in two minds on the subject.
mm, um, this isn't a sin, but it's hardly a virtue. But the most crushing realization of all was that whether I chose to watch a Fellini film or Ant-Man and the Wasp, I don't know who Fellini is.
He's an Italian like art house filmmaker. He frequently teamed up with a guy by the name of Roberto Benigni, who you probably will have heard of more because he did a big budget version of Pinocchio that was released in dubbed over in the States when we were kids.
Oh, I remember that.
The creepy version of Pinocchio, the live action one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I actually like that movie.
I only sat down to watch it once. I didn't really know what to make of it.
Okay, yeah, I actually know. Yeah, I mean, like same actually, because like I remember parts of it, and I remember the design of Pinocchio, which yeah was actually kind of creepy.
Yeah. But yeah, Fellini was Roberto's frequent collaborator, and I think Fellini died right around the same time as Roberto got his Italian Oscar that gave him enough clout to make the famous Pinocchio, I think.
Mm. Okay. Was decision of no consequence whatsoever. Actually, let me reread that again because, like, but the most crushing realization of all was that whether I chose to watch a Fellini film or Ant-Man and the Wasp was a decision of no consequence whatsoever. I was betraying nothing. There was no contradiction, nothing to reconcile. Really, I was just another schmuck enjoying the most successful franchise of all time. Films that have been precision engineered to be as entertaining as possible. It was a pleasure as easy and obvious as drinking Coca-Cola and just as morally implicating. What the fuck are you saying?
Okay, that last part is an instantaneous fuck you, but until he got to that last bit of sentence, he's almost there. He can almost begin to understand that in the grand scheme of things, there's nothing saying that a Fellini film or an art house claptrap thing is better than an MCU movie. But he can't do it. He can't let go of the Oxford security blanket he has of this sense of moral and intellectual superiority he has. Dude, maybe, just maybe, comic book movies can be as good or as bad or as indifferent as literally every other genre of movie. And maybe, just maybe, every other genre can do the same thing. Maybe, just maybe, art house movies are just pretentious ego stroking for critics and intellectuals that aren't in any way categorically better than any other genre. And maybe, just maybe, art house movies could learn something from the likes of the MCU. I know I just blew your fucking mind, but that appears to be the intellectually honest and consistent position, you aristocratic fucknob. Moving on.
That said, I can't quite shake off the guilt that comes with this guilty pleasure. While I can file alongside dairy products and the music of Azealia Banks, this is a concept that has fallen out of favor in recent years, owing to the lingering influence of poptism. Tim, 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 pop.
Positivism.
I don't know what that is.
Positivism is basically that hippie position of everything is fine, look on the bright side at all times.
Okay, the school that celebrates and affirms the value of mass-produced culture. No pleasure, we are told, should be guilty, but there's a value in holding on to ambiguity and recognizing that your emotional reaction to something is not necessarily a barometer of quality. So,
No, but your flat out intellectual contradiction of yourself to save your own ass might be an indicator that you were wrong originally. But again, your brain can't seem to countenance the idea that just because something is aristocratic and quasi intellectual doesn't mean it's accurate, and just because something isn't aristocratic and quasi intellectual doesn't mean it's stupid or intellectually inferior. I hate to be this guy, but if you know anything about the history of philosophy or intellect in general, you know the truly intelligent thing is not believing in some kind of authoritarian hierarchy of what the authority tells you. It's questioning said hierarchies when they're not based on anything relating to reason, but instead just relating to authority. You need to understand this. It doesn't make you smarter than everyone because you like Fellini movies or you like anything else art house, and it doesn't make anyone else better either. And it doesn't make someone intellectually inferior if they like comic book movies, just like every other kind of goddamn movie. It doesn't make someone intellectually inferior if they like westerns or mob movies or sci-fi movies or Spielberg family movies or any of the that other shit either. Because, and this is the fundamental crux of things, and it's the same issue we keep coming up against. The meta narrative, the non-diegetic bullshit of movies is not actually what makes them good. It's the content and the in-universe logic and the characters and the storytelling that makes these things good. It's not even the themes that makes things good. It's what the themes relate to that occasionally makes them worthwhile contemplating. You jackass. The value of movies is not secondary or tertiary when we're talking about movies. When we're talking about movies, the value of the movies in question should be the primary question. You dipshit. It's a fundamental flaw in your worldview that is the issue. And it's one that I keep seeing over and over, and it's making me sad and angry at the same time. Fuck.
This will at least save you the embarrassment of insisting that the Marvel films are high art or politically useful, or claiming, as some have done, that superhero films can be a tonic for our political divisions. What the fuck?
Movies don't need to be political. Politics is tertiary at best to art. Fuck off with that shit. The value of things is contained generally within the things and the nature of the things in general. If you claim that the value of anything is secondary or tertiary to itself, then you essentially just view that thing as a means to an end. And fuck that shit. Dipshit.
Mm-hmm. Alright, as it looks like the lockdown is coming to an end and I have less need to self-medicate with easy entertainment, I'm hoping that this lingering guilt will spur me onto better use of my time. A new Marvel series came out last weekend, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the villain of which is an anarchist collective called the Flag Smashers, who are intent on ridding the world of borders. How frightful. It looks like reactionary garbage, yet still I'm tempted. Literally, they are the whole group of people that are like, Thanos did nothing wrong.
Yeah, they're super villain Antifa.
Yeah.
But I'm betting that how frightful was sarcastic and that this guy actually.
I mean, like that. Yeah, no. Yeah.
I'm betting that this guy finds there to be nothing wrong with the idea of no borders, which just goes to show he can't turn the fucking political worldview bullshit off.
Granted, Falcon and Winter Soldier is one of the more political things I've seen from Marvel.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what this guy thought of WandaVision, because there was none of that shit in WandaVision, really.
Well, I mean, like, it has a purpose. Like, the political thing has a purpose in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Well, yeah, it's related to the Captain America franchise, and that's probably the most political the MCU movies have gotten, because it's Captain freaking goddamn America, for fuck's sake.
They have Isaiah Bradley in that show.
Yeah, he was played by the same guy that played Dick Halloran in Doctor Sleep. I was actually kind of really grateful to see him again.
Also, he's the voice of John Jones from the DC animated movie, DC animated universe.
Oh shite! This guy's that guy's a genius. But being the awesomeness of that actor being as it may, the person who wrote this article is a moron. A moron entirely too convinced that he is the least moronic human being to ever grace the English language. And it's really fucking annoying me. Because true intelligence is not putting authority in the right things. True intelligence is being able to pose logical questions to authority and coming up with logical answers to logical questions. It's Socrates, it's Sherlock Holmes, it's Hercule Poirot, and on and on and on. That's real intelligence. Obviously, those characters may well be fictional, but that what those characters do and what those characters are is the nature of actual intelligence. It's
Um,
seeing things so obvious that most people would overlook them, or asking questions so simple and so stupid that most people wouldn't think to ask. That's real intelligence. It's not, oh, I guess the dear leader says this, therefore. Moving on.
right. I also wanted to mention, for those who don't know who Isaiah Bradley is, in the Marvel comics, he's technically like the first Black Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he was. I don't know a lot because I've never really. I'll be honest. I'm more of a DC guy than I am a Marvel guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe he's in like how he got his powers and stuff was like in reference to like the Tuskegee experiments.
Yeah.
And they also bring that stuff up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There is a scene. I don't know, like if we ever do, if you ever want to do a review of Falcon and the Winter Soldier on
I don't. I really I only been kind of tertiarily keeping up with it. I probably won't actually sit down and watch a Marvel related thing until like Loki, as far as the shows go.
right. Okay. I don't know. It's just like the police scene in episode 2.
I mean, if I hear some big revelation happens, then I might think about giving Falcon and Winter Soldier a watch. But WandaVision has taught me to not really expect much of anything from the MCU shows as far as big revelations go.
You
So
gotta let it go, man.
no, not not until they fix it with Doctor Strange 2. Also, not until they do actual good with Doctor Strange 2, because I'm getting at least one good Doctor Strange movie before I die. God damn it, this is happening.
All right.
I,
Moving forward.
moving forward.
There's also like a thing here. Hold on. It looks like reactionary garbage, yet still I'm tempted. Okay, fuck you for calling Falcon and the Winter Soldier reactionary garbage. Fuck you. Because those are like two of my favorite characters from the MCU. Um, we have a small favor to ask. Nine's turn to the Guardian every day for vital. Oh no, that's it. That's actually it.
Mm-hmm. I find it funny that he calls Falcon and Winter Soldier reactionary when the show is probably setting up those characters to be in the right somehow, and for Falcon and Winter Soldier to be in the wrong and learn something somehow. So he's probably gonna, in about 3 episodes, be laughing at himself for thinking that Marvel was going reactionary, quote unquote. And it would actually been more interesting if they actually had.
Mm. Yeah.
I can't imagine what's on. Are you recycling water
Yeah, I got nothing really to say. I mean, like, it's just a really stupid article. Kind of quick though. I do think we are going to call it for the night, folks, because in about another hour will be midnight. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Also, Brainstormer needs to be fresh for the last thing we were going to cover today, because in the same way that he indulged me with the Little Nas X story, I sent him something that I knew would get him his blood flowing, and
yeah.
I don't want him to be tired and annoyed by his back when he covers that, because I'm just gonna kind of sit back with popcorn when we get to that story next week.
Okay. So with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avida, sayonara, peace. Cheers.
Here's one bottle.
And
Okay.